January 2nd, 1984. From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. Jesse Jackson is still in Syria tonight. He says he's still hopeful the Syrians will release Lieutenant Robert Goodman, who remains Syria's prisoner. As ABC's Ken Walker reports from Damascus, the Democratic candidate for president did meet the Syrian president today.
Jackson finally got his meeting with Assad after being put off for 2 days at the president's suburban villa. Jackson was the first Western political figure to meet with Assad since a heart illness forced suspension of public duties in November. Reporters allowed there heard Jackson tell Assad there was a growing consensus in the U.S. for withdrawing the Marines in Lebanon for fear there would be more bloodshed. The meeting went for 90 minutes, an hour longer than planned. When they finally emerged, Jackson was overheard joking that President Reagan has only 1 year left in office. After returning to the hotel, Jackson met with reporters and told how he appealed for mercy for Lieutenant Robert Goodman.
Our mission of mercy continues. It is not over.
Later, Assad called Jackson, and while the word wasn't exactly final, the candidate sent an aide to say it did offer some encouragement.
President Assad has currently convened the appropriate leadership, and our appeal is being deliberated upon. These deliberations are signs of hope.
Twice now, the Syrians have pressed Jackson to delay his departure while they consider Goodman's release. Privately, campaign aides are the most optimistic yet that Jackson finally can bring the Navy flyer home. Kenneth Walker, ABC News, Damascus.
Well, it'll not likely go over well in Washington, but the French announced today they are cutting back on their contribution to the multinational force in Beirut. Nearly 500 French soldiers, almost 25% of their force, will be transferred to the United Nations contingent in southern Lebanon. That announcement may very well lead to further debate about the role of the U.S. Marines. As ABC's Charles Glass reports, some of the Marines were found today quite some distance from their assigned area.
These U.S. Marines were on an open road in Lebanon today, 10 miles away from where they usually are, dug in at their base at Beirut Airport. The Marines asked us to stop filming and not to reveal which Christian village they were in, and the Marine spokesman declined to say why the Marines were there. In the past, convoys like this have been said to be on reconnaissance looking for Syrian anti-aircraft positions. All Marines are officially based either here at Beirut Airport or on ships. Sending a convoy into the hills means they are not confining themselves to self-defense at the base. But the rest of the Marine contingent continued to increase security at the airport amid growing concerns for their safety. They built more fortified bunkers, and sentries maintained a steady watch at the camp's main gate to prevent unauthorized people from entering. The controversy over their presence here and that of their 3 multinational force partners is increasing. France announced today that it plans to reduce the size of its multinational force unit by 500 soldiers. And the Italians have already said they would reduce their force here by nearly half. But the attacks against the multinational forces since last September's Chouf Mountain War has been almost exclusively against the French and the U.S. Marines. Last September, the Marines, supported by the fleet, fought for the first time in Lebanon to help the Lebanese army. Since then, Lebanese opposition groups have called the Marines' role as peacekeepers increasingly into question. Now, more and more Americans are asking those same questions. What are the Marines doing here? Are they peacekeepers or partisans? These are questions not for the Marines here, but for their commander-in-chief. Charles Glass, ABC News, Beirut.
One senator who supported the Marine presence in Lebanon has now gone off to look at the situation himself. Senator John Tower, head of the Armed Services Committee, left today for the Middle East, along with Senator John Warner. Their fact-finding tour includes stops in Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, and in Israel. The PLO chairman, Yasser Arafat, has marked the beginning of this new year with an attack on the president's plan for an overall Middle East settlement. Arafat said today in Tunis the Reagan plan suppresses the rights of the Palestinian people. He said that 1984 would see intensified resistance against the Israelis from those Palestinians living under Israeli occupation. And now Central America. Even if you only casually follow events in El Salvador, you've probably heard a little talk recently about a major new government offensive against the anti-government guerrillas. As ABC's John Quinones reports, this weekend, it was the guerrillas who were doing all the damage.
The weekend of humiliation for the Salvadoran military began on Friday when leftist guerrillas captured an entire army garrison just 30 miles north of the capital. And then, with an early morning blast on New Year's Day, the guerrillas leveled El Salvador's biggest and best defended bridge, the Cuscatlan. The destruction of this main link on the Pan American Highway virtually cut all transportation between eastern and western El Salvador. The assaults were particularly embarrassing because of their timing. They came just days after the Salvadoran army launched its biggest counterinsurgency drive in the 4-year-old civil war. The military command, under U.S. guidance, sent 20,000 soldiers, or 80% of the army, to flush out guerrillas in the field. The troops weren't even given a break for the holidays. The weekend defeats once again pointed to a chronic problem facing the Salvadoran army: poor training compounded by low morale. In battle after battle for several months now, even the most elite of the Army's battalions have suffered heavy casualties at the hands of the rebels. Now the guerrillas appear more brazen than ever. As they rested near the military base they overran, the rebels boasted about the success of their new winter offensive and threatened more attacks. It is time to go after the big targets, this rebel commander said. The series of weekend attacks caught government officials here by surprise. They had been busy planning El Salvador's elections, now scheduled for March, and they were preoccupied with U.S. demands that they put an end to the activities of right-wing death squads. The new year has begun with the government once again focusing on a fundamental issue here, a leftist insurgency that now appears stronger and more daring than ever. John Quinones, ABC News, San Salvador.
Still with foreign news, that controversial pipeline from the Soviet Union to Western Europe is now working. The first Soviet natural gas arrived in France yesterday. Apparently there were no hitches. The U.S. is still not happy with the pipeline, thinking it makes some Europeans too dependent on the Soviet Union. Europeans, on the other hand, were indignant when the president imposed sanctions on U.S. equipment being used to build it. The sanctions were subsequently lifted. And now Nigeria, which is the most heavily populated country in Africa. General Muhammad Buhari, who led the successful coup in Nigeria on Saturday, has now said that in the future, crooked civil servants would be put in jail without what he called the nonsense of legal proceedings. Other than radio broadcasts, Nigeria is still pretty cut off. The military men have cited mismanagement of the nation's economy as the reason for their move. They say that oil-rich Nigeria has become a beggar state. As Steve Shepard reports, a bad economy was where this coup began.
Nigeria is the biggest, richest, and most powerful nation in Black Africa. It is America's second-largest supplier of foreign oil, and until this weekend, it was one of Africa's few remaining democracies. Just last August, civilian President Shehu Shagari was re-elected to a second 4-year term in office. But if Nigeria's politics have seemed healthy, its economy has not. Nigeria lives by exporting oil, and the world oil glut has hurt it badly. Since 1980, its oil exports have decreased by more than 50%. Its treasury has been hemorrhaging, its debt on the rise. Nigeria today owes foreign creditors more than $14 billion. Unemployment is rampant. Civil servants have been going without pay. Last year, in an effort to deal with rising discontent, President Shagari expelled some 1.7 million Ghanaians who had been brought into Nigeria as workers but began competing with locals for jobs as the economy started to decline. And last week, Shagari announced a new austerity budget which would have cut food subsidies and other government programs. That apparently was too much for the military, whose leaders believed Nigerian civilian rulers were not just incompetent but corrupt. It overthrew Shagari and promised to clean up the government. Nigeria's new leader, General Muhammad Buhari, is known to Western observers. He is considered intelligent, conservative, and free from corruption, a Western-oriented pragmatist. For that reason, U.S. officials have hope that the new Nigerian government will work to maintain good relations with the United States. Because of its influence in Africa and because of its oil, those relations are considered extremely important here. Steve Shepard, ABC News, the State Department.
Later in this broadcast, migrant workers having trouble finding jobs because of winter's freeze. We'll have a report on changes in the tax system this new year, good news for most Americans, and we'll see how George Orwell's vision of 1984 corresponds to the world in the year itself.
This is World News Tonight, brought to you by Canon Copier.
A colorful breakthrough, Canon's 270F. It lets you make up to 27 copies a minute, reduces, enlarges, can even feed and collate automatically. But the 270F does more. It lets you communicate in color at a price that keeps you in the black. The Canon NP270F. For information, call toll-free.
MASH, weekdays at 5 on Channel 2. Ago today, the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit was established. Experts estimate the slower speed has saved at least 60,000 lives. World News Tonight will continue.
Till now, the only way to get really fresh-tasting spaghetti sauce was to grow your own vegetables. Introducing Ragu Chunky Garden-Style Spaghetti Sauces, the chunkiest, freshest-tasting sauces we ever put in a jar. Bursting with the garden-fresh taste of chunky tomatoes, tender mushrooms, crunchy green peppers, sweet onions.
Good sauce.
New Ragu Chunky Garden Style in 3 garden-fresh varieties. That's Italian.
Folks win big in American Family Sweepstakes. Kelly Williams, $100,000. Francis Whitson, $100,000. Tim Blakesley, $1 million. Now, you could win big, too. How big? $2 million. Look for this envelope with my picture on it. This gold seal doubles the grand prize from $1 million to $2 million. All for you. So watch for this sweepstakes from American Family.
For 2 weeks now, and it seems longer, every time we've talked about the weather, we've reported record cold and snow. Well, not today. It was beach weather in Los Angeles, where the temperature reached almost 80 degrees. It wasn't quite that warm in Chicago, but the temperature downtown did rise above freezing this afternoon for the first time since December the 15th. Well, although warm weather returned to much of Florida today, the state had already begun a week-long embargo on all fresh fruit shipments. It is designed to protect consumers from buying freeze-damaged oranges and grapefruits. The frost is costing Florida citrus farmers millions of dollars. As Mark Potter reports, however, the cost for some farm workers is high as well.
Normally, these migrant farm workers in Immokalee, Florida, would be making money by picking the winter vegetable crop. But this year, because of the crop freeze, they are out of work. So now they are picking through handout clothing at a social service agency.
It's been pretty hard, you know.
Hundreds of workers have been lining up for help here for days.
The biggest demand is for blankets, food, and rent money.
A lot of people need money to pay their rent, their gas, lights, and they don't have it, and they're gonna kick them out.
It's estimated that thousands of farm workers have lost their jobs in this one area of Florida alone. And because very few of them have savings, they are financially strapped. Hector Vara and San Juana Ramirez are among them and are having a tough time feeding 5 children. Today they join many other migrants at a soup kitchen set up at a Catholic church.
It's kind of tough for me and my family, you know. Can't make enough money.
We only eat 1 day at a time. Only 1 meal a day.
With all the migrants appealing for help, the social service agencies are running out of food and blankets, and they see no end in sight to the problem.
For a select few migrants, there is still some work to be done as the farmers plow under their damaged crops for replanting. But after that's completed in about a week, there will be no farm worker jobs left here until the new crops are ready for picking. Mark Potter, ABC News, Immokalee, Florida.
Chief Justice Warren Burger has issued his annual report on the state of the nation's judicial system. Once again, the Chief Justice complains of the enormous backlog of cases in federal courts. He says there are fewer judges but more lawyers than most advanced European countries. In 2 major American cities today, 2 mayors have formally taken office. In Philadelphia, Wilson Goode was sworn in as the first black mayor this country's 4th largest city has ever had. And in Boston, Raymond Flynn has taken over from Kevin White. White had been the mayor of Boston for 16 years. The nation's economy may be in for more improvement in 1984. The Commerce Department today, in its annual U.S. Industrial Outlook, predicts a better year for the auto industry, the home building industry, even steel mills and other businesses which were still sluggish last year.
To get ahead in business these days, you've got to be fast. You not only have to be fast, you have to be faster than the next guy. And as fast as you are, there's always someone else who thinks he's faster than you. And the faster you go, the faster everyone else tries to get ahead of you. And the faster you have to go to keep up with the fastest. And no matter how fast you go, everyone everywhere is always trying to be faster. So you have to be really fast, tremendously fast, incredibly fast, or you fall behind someone else who is faster. Faster than Jimmy, faster than Joey, faster than Janie, and faster than John.
To get ahead in business these days, you have to go with a company who invented the whole idea of fast. Federal Express. Why fool around with anyone else?
Hoppity-toe, wickety-whack, flippity-flop, jiminy-criminy, whoopity-scoopity, zoom it, move it, boom it, rocket.
Kmart Dollar Days has always been a real crowd pleaser. The reason? Brand name merchandise in every department. Sale priced at the lowest dollar for unbelievable savings. However, our Dollar Days sale, let's open the door, does pose one problem. So while we encourage you to take advantage of our Dollar Days sale, please don't trample our employees. We really do need them.
Now here's business correspondent Sheila Cast. Tonight's Money Matters, taxes, and some major changes this year likely to affect your income.
The good news is that income tax rates for the full year will be 5% lower. You won't notice it on your paycheck. Withholding was cut 6 months ago. But now the reduction will be in place all year, and you'll notice it when you figure your taxes at the end of 1984. A single taxpayer with $15,000 income will save $75. With $30,000 income will save $250. A married couple with 2 children will save $90 on a $20,000 income. They'll save $250 with $40,000 income. The good news for Social Security recipients is that the checks mailed out tomorrow will include a 3.5% cost of living increase. The bad news for recipients with income from other sources is that for the first time they may have to pay income tax on some of those benefits. Up to half the benefits will be taxed if total income exceeds $25,000 for a single recipient, $32,000 for a couple. Some of the millions who pay into Social Security will pay more in 1984. Last year, withholding stopped if and when earnings totaled $35,700. This year, it will stretch until $37,800. The extra tax bite could total $140. Also, newly hired federal workers, employees of nonprofit groups, members of Congress, the president, and top federal officials, they'll all be paying into Social Security for the first time. It's all part of the plan to make the system more solvent. That's Money Matters for Monday. I'm Sheila Cast.
Here, Daddy.
Introducing the new and improved Fruit and Cereal Lover cereal, Post Raisin Bran.
This is delicious. The raisins are plumper.
Now, Post packs 3 packs of even plumper raisins in every box.
Flakes are bigger and crisper.
And bigger, crisper flakes, too.
Delicious.
Plumper raisins and crisper flakes from Post Raisin Bran, the Fruit and Cereal Lover cereal.
I knew you'd like it.
What kind of people drink Sanka brand? People like Virginia Buckland, horse trainer.
Horses can sense if you're nervous. That's why I have to stay in control. So I really look forward to relaxing with a cup of Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee. A cup of Sanka, please.
As usual.
That's good. And it's 97% caffeine-free, so it's perfect for me anytime, anywhere.
Sanka brand, for people who love coffee but not caffeine.
The year was 1948. A disillusioned writer created a satiric vision of life in a totalitarian state. What to call the book? George Orwell decided to reverse the last 2 digits of the year. 1948 became 1984, and the novel became the classic vision of a world where the state is all, the individual nothing. Well, now that we've reached the real 1984, how does our life measure up against Orwell's terrifying vision? Here's Jack Smith.
This is 1984, the book, and this is the world of 1984. Today, most people in it live under repressive government, and a full third of the world's nations torture and kill their citizens for their beliefs. It seems Orwellian, a term burned into our minds by this remarkable book. It was written 35 years ago by George Orwell, a left-wing British intellectual. He fought in the Spanish Civil War, but found to his shock that the Soviet Union, which supported the side of democracy, was just as authoritarian as the Spanish fascists.
He felt it wasn't a war for the freedom of the Spanish people at all. It was a war for extending the influence of Stalinist communism, and therefore of Russia.
Under the shadow of the great dictators and the ravages of the Second World War, Orwell poured out his disillusionment and wrote this manuscript, a story about something which, he said, could happen, a totalitarian world as depicted here in the movie version of his book.
Who are you? 6748 Smith W. Where you were? In the Ministry of Truth.
It was a world where the police watched one's every move through telescreens, where children spied on parents, and where human affection was forbidden. Against all the rules, though, the hero, Winston Smith, falls in love.
They can't get in sight of us.
But they do. Arrested and brainwashed by the thought police, Winston betrays his lover and comes instead to love the one-party state and its embodiment, Big Brother. The book has been translated into 62 languages. It's required reading in most schools, and in the U.S. alone has sold 10 million copies. It endures because it deals with what's perhaps our main preoccupation, freedom.
I think the book is a satire. It is not a prophecy, but on the other hand, the things he was satiring in 1948, I'm afraid most of them are still with us in 1984.
The book bears a chilling resemblance to events in our lifetime. Big Brother has appeared in China, life is regimented in the Soviet Union, and the Khmer Rouge are thought to have killed 2.5 million Cambodians in the name of collectivism. New dictators always seem to take the place of the old, and Orwell's fear of perpetual war seems horribly real. There are, right now, some 40 wars being fought around the globe. The world presents a bleak picture. But Orwell's book was set in the West, not the Third World, and what worried Orwell was that totalitarianism, as it existed, would spread here to the Western democracies. This is Orwell's London today. The West just doesn't look like the place of his nightmares, or does it? The fact is that most of the machinery of his repressive state exists today. Mind-bending drugs, paper shredders, lie detectors, and also the two-way telescreen.
She can even put the system in control.
A Harris poll this fall showed the number of Americans very concerned about threats to their privacy had risen to 48%, and with reason. There's much more surveillance today than there was in Orwell's time. We are watched in the subway, we are watched where we shop, and increasingly in the workplace as well. And almost everything we do nowadays, from filling out a form to drawing money from the bank, is recorded in a computer. Private companies like insurance firms and credit agencies have therefore accumulated vast files on most Americans, and these files can be shared. These are the computer tapes of the Internal Revenue Service, and the IRS last year finally got access to the profiles of Americans in the databanks of private mail-order firms.
We are under surveillance very much, certainly almost to the extent that Orwell describes in 1984. Now, the motivation is different. But it's very easy for the motivation of a government or a society to change.
True, but abuses can and have been stopped. Congressional hearings in the 1970s put a halt to illegal domestic spying by the CIA and other government agencies. And whereas in Orwell's time there was nothing to limit snooping, today there are dozens of federal and state laws to protect the individual.
All the technology that we've put into place has not brought us one step closer to Orwell's state than when he wrote in 1949, because our free institutions and our distrust of government and our mechanism for controlling government still remain very strong.
The technology of totalitarianism may exist today, but the social will to use it does not, because we live under law and elect our leaders. Nevertheless, modern life can seem Orwellian. We are crowded into big cities and work in large offices. TV is homogenized, and advertising bombards us with hype. Anonymity and conformity today menace the individualism Orwell held so dear.
He felt that he and every single person who clung to this idea of being free, of forming opinions, of having beliefs, that he was being, we were all being sucked into a kind of uniformity.
Still, the fact remains that in the West today, people do pretty much what they want. They worship as they wish, they love whomever they please, and though the way we live may be changing, people still enjoy life, for its basis remains multiplicity, not conformity, freedom, not control. We seem then to have taken Orwell seriously, and that's perhaps all that he intended. Not a prophecy, but a warning, which is still worth listening to. Jack Smith, ABC News, Washington.
Speaking of privacy, Queen Elizabeth II got so angry at reporters and photographers bothering the royal family during its Christmas holiday, she asked their bosses to make them all go away. The editors complied, and the royal estate at Sandringham is reported tonight to be almost press-free.
How do you keep going when you get a cold?
With Contact, you only have to take one pill every 12 hours.
12-hour Contact keeps you going.
Contact with the time release, 12 hours, you feel great all day long.
I work for 24 hours, and that's basically why I take the Contact.
In real life, people have to keep going. They can't let congestion stop them. 12-hour Contact keeps you going. Give your cold to Contact. Real medicine for real colds.
Good luck, son. Make us proud.
This year, 2 million families will send their kids off to college. But many of these kids won't be able to compete because they lack computer skills. A home computer can help. The Commodore 64 gives you more computer for less money than anyone else. Instead of saving for your kids' education, maybe you should spend a little for it.
Tonight on Nightline, should there be a Super Bowl for college football? Our guests include a major college football coach who says the answer is no.
Planters dry roast peanuts? Well. Well,
your limo has arrived, sir.
Thank you, Jeeves. To the Opera House, driver. And munch on it.
Fanta's dry roasted peanuts. So crunchy, so full of fresh roasted flavor, they make ordinary occasions special.
What, lazy bones?
Planters peanuts. You must want me to get up and cut the grass.
Nope. I just thought I'd sit here with you and watch it grow.
Isn't that the new Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes you just got?
That's right.
It's got $2.5 million in prizes. Why haven't you sent it in?
Smart people don't enter those things.
That's what we used to think. Now we're $250,000 smarter.
I don't think anybody ever wins.
That's what I used to think, but hearing I'd won just 3 months later made me believe.
You know that new Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes you just got? Why haven't you sent it in? Lots of Clearinghouse winners used to think that, too. Come on, send it in.
And finally, if this is the New Year's holiday, it must also be the annual College Bowl games. The University of Texas this afternoon lost its chance to claim the National Collegiate Championship. Georgia scored a touchdown with 3.5 minutes to go and won the Cotton Bowl 10-9. Now, the Georgia victory leaves Nebraska in a position to claim the title if Nebraska beats Miami in tonight's Orange Bowl. If Miami wins and Auburn wins the Sugar Bowl, 4 schools will end up with 1 loss each. Confusing? Yes, football is the only major college sport that doesn't have a postseason tournament to pick a champion. A lot of people think it should. The people who run the bowl games don't. Bowl games began as tourist attractions for the cities involved. That's our report on World News tonight. For everyone at ABC News, I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.
Up tonight on Nightline, should there be a Super Bowl for college football? Ted Koppel's guests include the coach of a major team who says no. This is Bill Owen speaking. From ABC, this has been World News Tonight.
The sweetest bowl of the year. The number 3 ranked SEC champion Auburn Tigers, led by their potent backfield of Bo Jackson and Lionel James, try to stir things up when they meet the highly ranked Michigan Wolverines in the Sugar Bowl on January 2nd, only on ABC.
Not long ago, my doctor said to me, "Doug, you're an intelligent man. You've got to get rid of that weight." "Doc," I said, "it doesn't have anything to do with intelligence. I've been trying to get rid of it for 17 years. I need help." You know, I'm an old football coach, and it took a long time for me to admit that. I came to Nutrisystems for that help. I lost 14.5 pounds the first week, 69 pounds in all. Hey, guys, it's okay to get help, and the best help is Nutrisystems.
Percale sheet sets for just $20. That's right, Percale sheet sets at a special low purchase price of $20. And only at Walmart will you find unbelievable savings like this during our fabulous white sale. These matching